Hi everybody, it's Janet Rockware from Moonkusser Art. This is Honey of a Geode. I am so in love with this piece, I can't begin to tell you. Everything went perfect on it. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do clean wooden stained sides on this one. Here's how I begin to make my selection of what I'm going to do. We're working on a birch wood board by DaVinci, and I stained it. Of course, I didn't have a stain that I liked, so I made my own mix. What I did was I did a couple of tests on the cradled edge of the board. You can see, well, once I move that board. Anyway, so there you can see it on the back of the cradled edge. I did some tests with what I had in the can, and none of the colors were to my liking. So just like paint, I decided to make my own blend and did a couple of tests with that and came up with the coloring that I liked. What I do is I just take a paper towel and dip it right into the stain. You want to be careful that you don't go too heavy. I don't know about all you artists, but I've done some of my share of furniture refinishing. So doing some stain work and polyurethaning, it's all part of things I've already done. So it seemed like this was going to be a good opportunity to put those to work for me on my art piece. So I just went around the board, applied that stain lightly with the paper towel, and kept working it until I got the definition that I wanted in the wood. The wood was really nice and clean, no knots or anything, so it was a real good cradled piece to work on. The surface panel is birch board, so I'm going to prime that, but that'll come in a little bit. So let's get all this primed up with the wood stain, and we'll be in good shape to get everything going for the surface. Just going around again, applying that stain, and we'll be letting that dry overnight. So the stain's all dry, and in order to put on the polyurethane, I'm being a little cautious. I want to keep that clean. You can see a little bit at the edge where the stain bleeded onto the surface, but that's okay because I'm going to seal that surface. So what I'm going to do to protect it from the polyurethane spray that I'm going to be using is I'm going to lay on some contact paper. The contact paper wants to run away from me there, but I happen to have this in inventory. Yeah, it looks like wood, but you know, it's okay. It was just about as wide as the board, just a little bit wider actually. So that worked well. I just measured it out and covered that whole piece with just something that I had laying around the house. So yay for me. I always like using all kinds of stuff that I've got in storage. And it cuts really nice and easy. It even has markings on the back if you wanted to take measurements and you could cut it. But I just trimmed on the fly. So it's got that peel off backing to it. I'm just going to take that off. I'm going to line it up as best I can on the edge of the board. And if you've worked with contact paper, most adhesives you want to start working from the middle and work out. That way you're getting any bubbles out of the surface. Now again, I'm not going to go crazy about worrying if I get anything on the board because I'm still going to prime that board surface because it's that birch. But I thought, if I don't need to get the polyurethane on there and give me any trouble with my primer on the board, I'm probably better off being cautious. So I went the safe way and put that contact paper on and protected it. So let's go outside. Alright, so here in the Northeast, yeah, we had some snow. You can see some footprints. That's from my dog running around the yard. But it's warm enough today, even though there's snow on the ground, that I can spray this. So I'm just going to do a quick spray on all the sides, and I'm going to take it inside to dry. But I can't spray indoors, so out in the backyard and just put those coats on the edges only. I don't have to put anything on top of that contact paper. I'm just concerned about my sides. Going around and making a real good coat, but not heavy, because I don't want to get any runs in it. Alright, so that coat's dry. This is a fast drying polyurethane. So here comes coat number 2, and I'm just going to quickly again go around, do a light coat on each side, make sure I got good coverage, and once I've got that all applied, I'm going to take it back in the house and let it dry. Okay, here we go on to layer number 3 on the polyurethane. I keep checking to see if I feel like I'm getting good enough coverage, but it's going on so light, which is good because I'm not getting any drip runs, but I want to make sure that it's going to be sealed up good. So I'm putting this third coat on, and this time I'm going to bring it in and let it dry overnight, because now it's starting to get a little bit on the heavy side, and I really want it to dry good. Okay, day 3. So everything dried nicely overnight. It's a little bit on the rough side. My expectation of varnish is going to be smooth. If you saw that stick roll by, that's my dog trying to convince me that I shouldn't be working and I should be playing with him. So here's my critters. The dog and the cat love to be out in the backyard, and even more when I'm with them. Okay, so I got my palm sander, and I'm going to hit it real light. I'm using a really fine sandpaper. This is a 400 grit sandpaper. I'm just going to knock down any of the, it feels kind of gritty, so I'm just going to knock it down a little bit, keeping that sandpaper flat to the edge as best I can. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm just going to give it a real quick touch up with that. And if you notice, all the snow melted overnight too. Nice for me. Okay, so I'm done with the power sander. I'm just going to, again, use that 400 grit paper. Just going to wipe down those edges a little bit more, because I checked them and I still wasn't real happy with it. I'm just going to do a real quick go around with that paper and finish up until it's to my liking. It doesn't take long at all. Now I have a very lightly damp cloth here, and I want to take that residue off from the sanding. It's really the polyurethane that I scuffed up, and I just want to wipe that down, get all that residue off. It's very light powder kind of stuck on there. The towel is just barely damp, and it picks up everything, cleans that all off, because once I get this cleaned off, I'm going to do one more layer of the polyurethane. That way it's going to seal it all down. Anything that I scuffed up with the sandpaper, it's going to smooth it off. So here we are, the 4th coat, final coat, and we're going to go around just like we did before. Going to give 2 passes back and forth on each side. Make sure I'm not lingering long in my spray, and that way I won't get any drips or runs on that. And we can let it dry overnight, and we'll be ready for the next day. All right, day 4. I hope you guys don't mind that I put all those days in there, but I kind of think it's important to let you know that it doesn't, not the way I'm working anyway, it doesn't all just happen overnight. So here's my contact paper. I'm going to remove that, and you can see it really did a great job protecting the top. Stayed in place, didn't move on me. It's, again, it was free. Can't beat that. I didn't have to use all my tape, and it really did a super job. All right. So now I'm going to start taping off my sides because now I want to protect that stained wood. I've got the polyurethane on there. It's a beautiful smooth finish, and I don't want to get my resin on there. If you've watched any of my tutorials before, you know I can get to be pretty picky about getting a clean edge, and this is the first time I'm doing a stained wood side, so I'm being really careful. Just going to put that first layer again around the bottom part of the board first, and then the top one, that one I lay so that it overlaps on the first one. And what will happen once that's set up on there is it lets the drips run right past that first layer of tape I put on. If you did it in reverse, there's a potential that the resin can run in between. I'm going to get real picky here. If you watch me, I'm going to keep laying the tape down and taking it off. Part of that is because I'm filming it and trying to keep it in camera for you guys. I can't eyeball it as I usually do, but I'm not going to take any chances. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to get that tape lined up. The tape can bend a little bit, so as you're laying it down, you have to watch that you don't pull it and stretch it. Just keep taking your time and work your way all around. You can feel that edge and make it lay down real nice right across that top. You'll be really pleased. All right, then I take my permanent marker. I've always had those hanging around, and I just burnish that tape down onto the sides. Start in the middle and I work my way to the corners. I go all around and make sure that everything is tight. See that edge? You can see there's just a little bit of stain there, but that's okay because now I'm going to come in and I'm going to spray with the Rust-Oleum. It's going to spray it white, and that's going to give me my seal coat for working on the resin. When you're working on wood, there could be air bubbles in your resin. So it's important to seal it so you don't get any air coming up as your resin is curing. Alright, so just a real fast one coat and in it goes to dry. Okay, so I've already done my mapping lines for my geode, and the first ring that I'm going to do is going to be a clear resin with a lot of glitter in it. So I decided I was going to paint in my first ring with a base coat of gold, and that way if the clear resin allows the see-through through the glitter, I'll have a good base to put it on there. Alright, so just pouring in using a paper cup of my gold and pinching it to make a little spout and using the pop stick to work that resin into the areas that I want. One of the things that I did when I was putting down this paint was I allowed it to make a little bit of a lip so that it holds that resin in place, and it worked pretty good. So that might work for you guys. Push it with your brush so that you get a little bit of lip edge and the resin stays put. Then I just sprinkled some gold glitter on top of that and settled in real good. Got a nice look on that one. Okay, this is Golden Acrylics. It's a Golden brand, and this is their mica flake. It's a compound. You can see that it's kind of it's got a white coloring to it, but within that compound it has the mica flakes. So I like this in using it to make another dammed up area. Uh, I'm using 2 popsicle sticks. I felt like I was kind of doing some claymation when I looked at this time-lapse film. But anyway, it works really nice if you're really looking to stay true to your map lines of your geode, because this can build another dammed up area. It dries overnight, and when it dries clear, and it adheres really good to the surface, so it makes a super base for building on your geode. So you might want to give that a try too. Okay, so day 6. Now what I did the night before, I had a little bit of leftover resin from that gold glitter, and I poured a little puddle on my plastic table, and I set my crystals. These are Brazilian honey crystals, calcite, I believe. Brazilian honey calcite crystals. Anyway, I built them up and set them in that little puddle with the popsicle sticks so that they would hold their form. Now I've just popped that off the surface, I put a little bit on the bottom of it, and I set it on my board. Now I'm going and building in with one of my rings. This is going to further secure that into the top. And let me tell you, when I was done with it, it really held it beautifully. So heat it up, get those bubbles out, and then what I'm doing here is I'm just working in that brown very carefully around those crystals. I did not want to get any of the brown on the crystals. I wanted them to really be highlighted by this dark color, and it worked really nicely. Sprinkling on some nice dark brown glitter, and then what I do is I came in with a gold and just drizzled it a little bit on top of those crystals, and then I'm going to be adding in, I had some, what were they? They were citrine semi-precious stones. So there they are on the board, and I'm going to hand place those. It's just a little bit more to really build those pieces in and give them a little bit more of a presentation on the board. It's setting up really nicely. I let that resin sit for a little bit, so it really grabbed them and they didn't move much because it was already like a very honey type of consistency. So just again, placing those in, filling any voids that might have been left between the crystals to give it that good look. Okay, so I have this ring that I'm working on. If you see, there's like a little bit of a line there. That's just school glue, and it dries clear, so I put that down, and again, that's giving me a nice ring to hold back my resin. I'm trying to really work hard at keeping my shape. Then I've got some glass, I'm laying that in. I'm not doing any kind of a mosaic-like work. I'm just kind of building them on top of one another and letting them fall in, but making sure that they're all grabbing into that resin because it has set up a little bit, so it's real sticky at this point, and it's not letting them slide or move all over, so it's working great. All right, and again, I've got that school glue down, and that's just giving me an opportunity to lay in this line with my popsicle stick because I want to really keep my layers of rings in their positions. I'm also kind of staggering how I do them. Okay, so here we are again, and everything's dried. I got all the beads that I placed on that line set in, and I'm just going to keep building on this geode. So we pour in the gold, and now I'm adding the white, and I'm going to heat it up with the gun, get those bubbles out, and allow those two colors to kind of mix with one another. You get some effects when you do that. I don't know if you can see it, but it does move it a little bit. And then I wanted to come in and pour this white ring. You can see too, check out my edges. I've put up a tape dam around the edge of my board. This way it's going to hold everything in place and it's not going to let it all pour off the board. There's only a couple of spots where the white comes up, but I'm going to keep working and putting the rest of the rings on. So heating them up, getting those bubbles popped out, it's really important to watch for that. Alright, so now I'm working all the way out on the board, building in another ring on the brown. It's the same color that I had mixed before. I custom mixed my colors, so it's just kind of playing around with them as I've got a few different pigments to use and whole slew of things in my, I like to call it my war chest. And anyway, I'm building in a nice gold ring here. This is a different gold than I usually use, but I liked that it was a little bit of on a warmer tone, so I went with that, and because I really wanted an autumn kind of color to this one. Okay, I'm cleaning up my tabletop because I'm going to be covering it up. I've got so much resin exposed that I want to make sure I don't get any dust particles settling in. I cover it with another piece of canvas, and then I've got my plastic drop cloth, and I'm going to let that dry. Okay, so it's been about 3 hours. We had snow today, and I was concerned that I needed to get outside and go shovel. And in my concern about that, I forgot that I needed to remove my tape dam after an hour. So this has been 3 hours. So you might see when I'm pulling this off that there's some stuff that looks kind of like taffy that when I'm pulling the tape off, it's kind of hanging onto the tape. So it definitely set up way more than I normally like. So, but I was really pleased with how well using the heat gun rounded over those edges. So it just lets those peak marks, I guess I can call them, from where the resin is pushed up against the resin dam. You can still heat them up and you can see it just drips right down my taped edge and gives you a nice round over. So who knew? Okay, so I'm putting a little bit more resin on top of the glass. I found a couple of spots that, I wanted a little bit more glass in there, so I dropped those in and I decided just to drizzle with the clear resin over top and lock everything down tight and give it a nice sheen. I also decided I wanted to get that glitter area to have a shine to it. So what I did was I pour on the resin and then I actually used one of my, scrappy paint brushes and I worked it right up to the edge of the white. I had gone real light with the resin, so moving it around with the brush, it took it right to where I wanted it and it did a super job. I then added some glitter to the leftover clear resin, and that's what I'm using to build in this next ring in a couple of the spots for more interest. Hi guys, it's Janet, and I've been working on a geode resin piece, and I thought I would just do a little quick video. Check out the fireplace, isn't that nice? So that's my studio. That's where I do my resin pouring over there. And nice heater. There's a couple of the geodes I've just finished. Trying to get some of my stuff up on the wall. Lots of canvases to work on. And so this is the one that I've currently been working on. Let's see if I can flip this camera. Can't. Okay. So, whoops, almost dropped you. That's the one. And it's all set. I'm real happy with the nice clean wood sides. They're beautiful. Really turned out good. So I'm good with that. And yeah, so I wanted to show you how I pick out my markers, because I have a few in inventory, and wanted to just share that with you. So let me get this set up here. So there's that geode. And there's another look at those nice sides. Very happy with how that worked. Alright, so one of the things that I do with my leftover resin, I have my work table covered with black plastic, and whenever I have a little bit of leftover resin, I just pour those onto the plastic on my tabletop, and I use them for all kinds of things. But today what I'm going to use them for is I'm going to test my colors for on my geode. So I've got some Posca markers that I use. A lot of people use them. And I've got CraftSmart markers. Those are an enamel. So if you use them, you've got to really want to use them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out my colors. So I'm testing them. Always make sure you shake up your markers. I'm going to test all of these because I want to make sure that I have the right color for on my piece. Alright, those are all shook up real good. Okay, so I've already primed them. It's important to push the tip in and prime it. You don't want to try to do that when you're going to draw your lines on your piece. That would be bad. So I'm just going to test my colors. I've already primed all of them, like I said. This one's the Posca Brown. And I'm hoping you guys can see all this. Let me see if I can get a little bit more light down. Hoping this works out good. So I'm just going to draw my lines out. A couple of things that I'm looking at is the thickness of the line. This is CraftSmart. This one's a metallic. Actually, I said enamel. It's incorrect. It's a multi-surface oil-based pen by CraftSmart from Michaels. And of course, I don't buy anything at Michaels unless I've got a coupon. And so I'm just going to go through and look at the different colors. You can see my brown is pretty flat. I hope you can see. Pretty flat. And the other one, it's a metallic, so it's got a little sheen to it. I think it's a bronze, if I remember correctly. That's the one bad thing I don't like about the CraftSmart markers. They don't tell you what they are on the sides, so you better know what you got. Love those Posca golds. That's real pretty. And in the gold from CraftSmart, I've got two. I have my chisel tip. You guys see that? So that's a chisel tip, so that's going to give me a wider line. A little bit of skipping there. Don't like that, but that's probably because of the glitter that's in there. Yeah. This is, again, CraftSmart, but just a regular tip. And then we have the Posca white. I bought a pack and they're all the same tip. The Doesn't say on here which one it is. It says on my box. Let's see. Medium. It's a medium line. Okay, so going out. Now, I gotta tell you, the Posca white, can you guys see that? It's just not really heavy in its color. It's kind of almost wishy-washy. It's transparent. So I really don't like that one. Love the gold, love the brown, don't really love the white. So here's CraftSmart. It's just a chisel tip. Oh, I hate that. So if you guys can see that. So it's a wider line. And we're just going to test it. Look at that. And this is why I'm showing it to you guys. Because side by side, you really want to look at them. Because when you put them on the board, and if you got a line that comes out wishy-washy like that one, maybe you want that, but I'm thinking if you're using white, you really want white. At least I do. So, anyway, here is CraftSmart, and that's their standard tip. I don't know what they call it on here, but they come in all different sizes. I actually have it in a fine tip too. I've done a couple of pieces where I had some real fine detail work, so I'll just show you here. See that? I didn't even prime that, but that's nice. That's dark, and that's a fine line. And if you compare that to the Posca white, I don't know. I mean, like I said, that is not my idea of a good white. So those are the colors I'm going to be using. I'm going to be drawing my lines onto that geode. Sorry about the flash there. But again, those are my tests. And you can see how it's going to look, or get a better idea of how it's going to be on your piece. So that's my tip for today. And yeah, hopefully it's a good idea for you guys. Okay guys, the big finish. Just putting those marker lines on. There is no way that I plan this out. I just kind of pick my colors, what I think's going to work good, and whichever way the mood is making me go, I just start drawing lines. And if I feel like I've got enough, I stop. If I want to go, I just keep building on. So this one I did a little bit more line work than I usually do, but I was having a good time with it, and I just was enjoying myself. I love this piece. I really can't tell you how much I like it. It's going to be hard to let it go. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching today.